now we lost everybody, right? It's time to start, and they're all in other places. Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. Welcome to the February 27th Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. I'm your chair, Brian Fry. Welcome. I did not bring Shamrock Shakes for everyone, but hopefully we'll get out of here quickly enough that you can go get your own. Pardon? Well, if you want to go grab one afterwards, we can, but I don't think I can handle 2 of these in one day. That's a lot of calories. All right, so let's start with opening announcements. Where's our, there we go.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
All right, thank you. We will now do a roll call of commission members present.
Fry.
Present.
Mater.
Here.
McKay.
Here.
Duell is absent. Bill Johnson.
Here.
Blick.
Here.
Nix.
Here.
Klontz.
Here.
Mr. Warren is absent. Mr. Joe Johnson is absent. Miles. Zimbelman.
Here.
Aldrich.
Here.
Williams Bay. Sir, I show 11 members present and 3 absent.
All right, thank you, Philip. Next item is 1.3, the approval of the February 13 minutes. They are not ready, so we're going to defer that to next month on March 13th. Item 1.4, we will now go through the agenda and see which items we can move to consent. First item is 2.1, subdivision 2025-3. This was a deferral from February. One step final plat, North Woodlawn and East 21st Street North. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 2.1 to consent. Item 2.2, subdivision 2025-6, one-step final plat for Wildflower Addition, 85th Street North and North 143rd Street East. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 2.2 to consent.
Josh wants to make a motion. You're Josh.
Motion to approve 2-1 and 2-2.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Blick with a second from Commissioner Miles to move items 2.1 and 2.2 to consent. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item 3.1 is vacation 2025-1. Basically at North Garnett Street and East 21st Street North. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 3.1 to consent. Oh, thank you. Is there anyone in the public who would like to hear this case? Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Seeing none, we'll move item 3.1 to consent.
Move to approve item 3.1.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Miles with a second by Commissioner Williams-Bay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Item 4.1, conditional use 2025-11. Request for an accessory apartment in rural residential, East 69th Street North and North 143rd Street East. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.1 to consent. Item 4.2 is conditional 2025-13, vehicle and equipment sales on LC, South Hillside, and East 31st Street South. Are there any members of the commission who would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff on this one.
All right, let's see if we can do that without having the item heard. Go ahead, sir.
Philip, on page 3, the second paragraph, that's pertaining to the landscaping, where it says the applicant is required to have 1 shade tree or 2 ornamental trees and so forth. The fact that we are presently in a stage 2 drought situation, and it appears that we got a strong likelihood of going into the stage 3 by the end of the year. Could we update that not only on this, but also future staff reports that are going to be coming up until that's no longer an issue, but where it shows that, due to the water restrictions, that this should be either omitted, or it should show that after the water restrictions have been lifted and we're back into normal operations, that the landscaping requirements would be enforced at that time.
Yes, I'm happy to provide that update.
And so just for background information for the record, the planning department has worked with the city and MABCD regarding the Wichita landscape ordinance, and all required landscaping is allowed to be deferred to planting until the growing season after the watering restrictions have been lifted. That's something that's being dealt with at like the building permit stage of things, but yes, we can be sure to inform the applicant of this case that that is not an immediate requirement, and then all future staff reports where landscaping is mentioned, we can include information and statements in there about the watering restrictions and deferral of installment.
Okay, thank you, Phil.
I have a question with that, Phil. Should that be part of this addendum, or that's what's in here is taken out and what you just said?
Well,
to it, even though you're notifying it, it's still, this is still part of the record, is it not?
well, this information is still applicable because they will have to provide that at some point when the watering restrictions are lifted. So it's still good for them to know that that will be coming down the pike. It is not listed at a standard, it is not listed as a condition of approval. So we don't necessarily have to it's not like a condition of approval is requiring it to be installed within 6 months. So this is just a standard code item that is provided as background information in the staff report. That item is still pertinent to the case because landscaping will need to be provided at some point. So we'll just inform the applicant that it's not an immediate requirement. And then in future staff reports, we'll just identify that installation is deferred.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Nix.
So let me just make sure I understand this. So is the deferral right now, or is it when we go to stage 3? Because we're not at 3 yet.
The deferral is right now. It is active.
During stage 2.
When we went into stage 2, I believe it was when Councilmember Tuttle actually brought it up, and we had the conversations and worked with MABCD to, for example, I currently review the landscape plan. So as building permits come in, they still are having landscape plans for review, but we are keeping track of the ones that are coming in to say, we're approving your landscape plan because you will have to provide this, but we're giving you notice to say this doesn't have to be planted until after the watering restrictions are lifted.
So if we ever go back to stage 1, is that what you're saying?
Correct. If the current drought watering restrictions are lifted, the standards of the code will be applicable and they will have to install required landscaping. We didn't just erase the landscape code. We're just delaying it based on current restrictions and watering usage.
Okay, so just to be clear, since we're not actually germane to this zoning case, let's go back and ask if there's any members of the commission who would like to hear this case on its own merit. Seeing none, are there any members from the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.2 to consent. Item 4.3, CUP 2025-3, entertainment establishment, roughly 13th Street North and North Oliver. Are there any members of the public who would, or commission who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, are there any members of the public who would like to hear this case? Seeing none, we'll move item 4.3 to consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve items 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3.
Second.
Commissioner Bill Johnson moved to approve with a second by Commissioner Blick, I believe. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, now item 5.1, deferred from February 13th, the annual review of the Community Investments Plan. Is Justin here? There he is.
Good afternoon, Chair Fry, Planning Commission, Justin Constantino with the Planning Department, here to give an update on the comprehensive plan. You may recall we discussed this item at our last meeting on February 13th, here to give another review. Next slide, please. So the recommended action this afternoon is to review and potentially make changes to the comprehensive plan. Next slide, please. A little bit of background, the Community Investments Plan, or the Comprehensive Plan, was adopted by the Wichita City Council back in December of 2015. And then in January of 2016, it was adopted by the Sedgwick County Board of Commissioners. On June 4th, the 2019, the Places for People Plan was adopted as an amendment to the Comprehensive Plan. And then shortly thereafter, a few weeks, the Places for People Plan was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. Next slide, please. Per Kansas state statute, at least once per year, the Planning Commission shall review or consider the comprehensive plan or any part thereof, including amendments. Opportunity to propose amendments, extensions, or additions to the plan can be done at the Planning Commission. And staff is requesting that the MAPC review the existing comprehensive plan and amendments to determine if any changes or additions to the plan should be considered this afternoon. Next slide, please. Back in October of 2024, the Planning Department released a request for proposals for consultants to provide professional services to review and produce amendments to the comprehensive plan. The three areas of focus are the locational guidelines, the 2035 future growth concept map, and the 2035 urban growth areas. Next slide, please. We did finalize an agreement with PEC, Professional Engineering Consultants, and the project has commenced beginning 2025. We had a pre-kickoff meeting with PEC back in late January. Next slide, please. So again, the recommended action is to review and potentially make changes to the comprehensive plan. I do have one note, and that is technically this would be recommended changes to the comprehensive plan for 2024. This is something that we wanted to get done towards the tail end of last year. I mean, we didn't get there, so any recommended changes today will be technically fall under the umbrella of 2024. We will revisit the comprehensive plan again in 2025. This item will again come before you a little bit later this year. I'm available for any questions.
All right, since we've had a little bit of time since our last meeting, does anyone have any comments or suggestions or edits to the comprehensive plan? Not seeing any, Justin, so I think that means we're good with it.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for taking a look, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you. Next item is 5.2, City of Goddard Unilateral Annexation Review. Philip, I guess you got this one? Now, we're on the clock for the shortest MABC
I know,
meeting.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. This DER 2504 is a review of a proposed unilateral annexation by the city of Goddard. Kansas statute 12-530B requires the planning commission to review a proposal and make a finding on whether or not this annexation is considered compatible or incompatible with adopted land use or comprehensive plans related to the area of the annexing city. And so this area that you see here, this is these three parcels right here are those that are being proposed to be unilaterally annexed by the city of Goddard. This is just south of West Maple. Out there, it's West 6th Street. Probably depends on who you ask. And it is about a half mile west of South 183rd Street West. As you can see, everything in the darker tan color is in the incorporated limits of the city of Goddard. This is a subdivision within Goddard. And in your staff report, I'm not going to go through the whole service plan provision that the city of Goddard furnished or was required to furnish, but essentially they have municipal services serving the subdivisions around this area. So the provision of water and sewer are literally just across the street. They have water mains in West Maple that could be easily extended to the three parcels in question. You can go to the next slide, please. This is from our comprehensive plan. This is the urban growth areas map. Again, you can see it's an island within the city of Goddard incorporated limits, and the light blue color indicates that it's in the growth area for the city of Goddard. Next picture, please. This is Goddard's future growth map. The parcels that are in question are up in here. Again, on repeat here, it's surrounded by the municipal limits of Goddard. And so there's no indication that this would be incompatible just because the city of Goddard is already around it and they have the ability to furnish municipal services to it. The next step for this from today's meeting will be going to the Board of County Commissioners, who are going to be asked to make a finding on whether or not it would inhibit the growth of any city within Sedgwick County. And then Goddard is going to be holding a public hearing on March 25th. That's nothing you guys are involved in, but that's their state requirement since this is a unilateral annexation of these parcels. What we're asking you guys to do is to make a finding, so you can move to find that whether or not the proposed unilateral annexation is compatible with the comprehensive and land use plans, or if you feel it is incompatible with the future comprehensive plans of the county and or the city of Goddard. And I can stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Phil. Anyone on the commission have questions for staff? Seeing none, is there anyone from the public who have questions? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion.
Mr. Chair, if there's no discussion, I'd make a motion that the planning commission finding the unilateral annexation proposed by the city of Goddard, Resolution 25.1, be consistent with the adopted Wichita-Sedgwick County Comprehensive Plan.
We have a motion. I'll second. Call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. With that, that brings our agenda items to a close. I just remind you that March 13th is our next meeting. And reminder that we changed the bylaws, and that will be when we do elections for a chair and vice chair. So if anyone has interest in either one of those positions, let me or Bob know so we can get it on the agenda. But we'll probably have that as the March 13th meeting, get it done according to the bylaws. With that, great timing. We're adjourned.